There you are. I want to be a millionaire. Hey? I remember the first time anybody ever went for a million on a millionaire, it was Murphy. And he'd got the $500,000, and your man says to him, he says, Murphy, he says, you count the $500,000, you can walk away. He says, but have a look at the million question, you've got one lifeline left. He says, have a look. And the question came up, and the question said, which one of these birds does not build its own nest? A blackbird, a crow, a seagull, or a cuckoo? And Murphy says, can I phone a friend? He says, you can. Who do you want to phone? He says, I'll phone Casey. So I go through to Casey, and he says, Casey, you've got 30 seconds. Here's Murphy. And Murphy says, this is the question. Which one of these birds does not build its own nest? He said, a blackbird, a crow, a seagull, or a cuckoo? And without hesitation, Casey said, it's a cuckoo. Are you sure? Without a shadow of a doubt, 100%, take no other answer. It's a cuckoo. Believe me, it is a cuckoo. So Murphy said, well, I'll go with him. I'll go with him on that. He says, I'll go for a cuckoo. Final answer, final answer. A cuckoo, up she come, lights flashing, drums crashing, Murphy's going mad, the place is going mad, he won $1 million, they're out that night buying drink, celebrating. He's back home in Donegal the following night, buying drink in the pub. I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, oh, I'm a... And the next thing, who walked in the door but Casey? And he looked over, he says, and there's Casey, there's the man that made me the millionaire, there's the smartest man in the world, the smartest man on God's green earth. And Casey went over and he said, what do you mean the smartest man in the world? He said, sure, every gobshite knows a cuckoo lives in a clock. Then there was the couple who went off on their honeymoon. Oh, you know how romantic. And they went off on their honeymoon and they stopped at the honeymoon hotel and that evening, and they were having the tea, and there was an older couple there who were actually celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary, and they had come back to the same hotel that they'd had the original honeymoon night in, and it was all, the four got talking, and of course the new bride was a wee bit nervous, you know, and then the older woman was trying to put her at ease, you know. She says, listen, don't it be the greatest night of your life. She says, don't worry about it. She said, but she says, just in case you're nervous, don't worry. She says, when you come down in the morning, let me know, you know, how you get on, you know. But she, oh God, she says, I'd be too embarrassed. She says, well, sure, we'll have a wee code of our own. When you come down tomorrow, and every time you use the word morning in your greeting, sure, I know that was what. You know, if you say, it's a nice morning, this morning, I know that was twice. So that was grand. So shortened the story anyway. Next morning, the old couple are sitting at the breakfast table. The young couple come in, and she comes in all smiling. She looks over at the old dear, you know, and gives her a wink. She says, good morning. It's a lovely morning this morning, isn't it? Oh, 3 times. Oh, you see. And the old dear, she looked up and she says, oh, indeed, it's a lovely morning this morning. And if tomorrow morning's half as nice a morning as this morning was, it'll be some morning too. Hey. One day, this rent collector came calling round these houses, and he knocked on the door of this house, and this wee fella, about 6 years of age, opened the door, and the rent collector says to me, he says, can I speak to your mother? And the wee lad looked, he said, no, you can't, because he's not, and he said, not. Well, can I speak to your father? He said, no, you can't speak to my father, he's not another, so he's not, and you can't speak to him, so he's not. She says, well, have you any brothers or sisters? He says, I have a sister. Well, he says, can I speak to her? And the wee boy said, hold on a minute. And the wee boy went away. And he came back about 5 minutes later, and he looked at the rent collector. He said, if you can't speak to my sister, the other three can't. No, you can't speak to my sister, the other three can't. And the man says, why not? He says, I can't get her out of the pram, so I can't. On the farm, there was these 3 bulls, 3 big, hefty animals, you know. And they were chatting away, and there was some talk about a new bull arriving on the farm. So the 3 bulls got talking, and one bull says to the other, he said, listen, he says, I'm here a long time. He says, and I have 50 or 60 cows of my own, and I'm not sharing them with any new bull that's coming here. And that's just the end of that. And the second bull, he says, well, he says, I have 30 or 40, he says, and they're mine. Those cows are mine, he says, and I just will not be sharing with any new, whatever, it doesn't matter. And the youngest bull of the whole lot, he said, well, listen, boys, I was glad that you gave me the 10 cows you did. He says, so he says, and I would just prefer to keep them 10 cows to myself, so I don't care who arrives. And while they were chatting, the next thing, this truck pulled in with a big trailer on the back of it, and the trailer was nearly sitting on the ground. And they opened the back of the trailer, and the one animal, this bull, come out. Oh, big God, about 4 ton of pure meat, snorting and steam rising off it. Oh, the biggest animal you've ever seen. And the first bull, he looked at him and he says, well, maybe I mightn't mind sharing 20 or 30 of them, because it wouldn't, so they might want to make friends, there's no point in making enemies. And the second bull says, aye, well, she'd be right there, there's no point in starting off in the wrong foot, sure, he can have as many of mine as he wants. And the young bull, he started pawing the ground and snorting and throwing shapes at the big bull, and then, man said, just settle yourself down, just give him your cows. No, he says, I don't mind giving him the cows, I just want him to know that I'm a bull. And then there was this fella in the hospital. Oh, he was a real big shot. He was a top-class businessman, and he was trying to run everything in the hospital like he ran the business. You do this and you do that, and he was just giving everybody a pain in the rear, so he was. And with the result that we're all fed up with him, and one day he was in the bed, and this nurse comes in, she says, now, she says, I want to take your temperature. So he lay there with the mouth open. Oh, no, she says, not there. Some things we have to take the temperature from the other end. Right, says he. So he got up and popped the bum up in the air, and she dropped the pyjamas and did the necessary with the thermometer, you see. And then she went out and left the door open. And nobody came for about an hour. And he was getting fed up because he could hear people going past the door laughing and sniggering. And he didn't know what was going on. And about an hour later, this doctor came in. The doctor looked at me and says, well, what's going on here? And your man looked up from the pillow. He says, you're some doctor. He says, did you ever see anybody getting their temperature took before? The doctor says, I did. He says, but not with a daffodil. What about the 3 vampire bats that were sitting in the cave and they were starving? There was nothing to eat. No, there was nobody about. Nobody to suck blood out or nothing. The 3 of them were starving. One of them says, we can't just sit here and die, So I'll have a fly round and see if there's anything there. And he went out and he came back about 10 minutes later and he was even worse shape. He says, there's nothing there. Nothing at all. So the second one, he had a shoot round and came back, there's nothing there. The third one says, there's got to be something. We just can't die, he says, of hunger. So the third vampire bat went out. He was away about 20 minutes. And he came back and blood all over, licking his blood all over the chin and licking him. God, where'd you get that? He says, come on, he says, lad, and I'll show you. So the 3 of them flew out of the cave and they're flying down the town. They're flying here, there, and everyone's, where is it? They were around this corner and the fella with blood on him, he says, do you see that wall over there? The boy said, I do. He says, well, I didn't. This priest and this wee nun were out travelling one day and they got lost in a blind snowstorm in the evening and they didn't know where they were. And lucky enough they found this old hut. And they went into the hut, they said they'd stay there for the night, you see. And the 2 of them settled down in 2 sleeping bags. And after about half an hour settled down, next thing the nun, she called over to the priest, says, Father, I'm very cold, Father, And then he says, well, there's a blanket out in the car. He says, a few blankets. He says, so he went out and he got one and he threw it onto her. Oh, thanks very much, Father, After half an hour, I heard it again. Do you know, Father, I'm still freezing, And he got up and he tramped out to the car and he got another blanket and he went and he threw it to her. That was grand. Half an hour later, oh, Father, do you know, I think I'll never get warm. I'm still frozen, Father, And he was getting fed up. He says, do you know, sister, he says, we're out here in the middle of nowhere and nobody knows what's going on. He says, I think maybe we should play a wee game. And what game's that, Father? Maybe we should play husbands and wives. Oh, good, Father, I'd love to. Well, he says, go out to the car and get your own blanket. And it was this Irish man, he was over in America, had a few drinks, and he was walking through the woods, and he came across this gathering, and it was one of those full immersion baptismal jobs where they baptise people in the river, and completely, and as a wee drunk was standing there watching the preacher, he looked over, he said to him, man, he said, hey, my friend, he says, do you want to see Jesus? Oh, I no bother, and they took him into the river, and they stuck him in, head down in the river, and the man dragged him up again. He says, well, my friend, did you see Jesus? He says, no, I didn't, no. So he said, well, try it. He brought him back down into the river again, kept him in longer, dragged him back up again. He said, well, did you see Jesus? He says, no, I did not, no. So he dunked him down this time, he kept him in oil. There was bubbles coming up to the surface, and he eventually dragged him back up again. He says, well, my friend, he says, did you see Jesus? He says, no, I didn't. He says, are you sure this is where he fell in?